Apparently, those 14 Kenyans that are coming back into the country from Liberia today will be quarantined.
Well, first, one of the gaps in the screening we are doing right now is that if you came in asymptomatic and probably not even asymptomatic, just got fever, because fever occurs in only 85% of the cases. There's a 15% who will not have fever, they'll have other symptoms before. Then for sure you won't pick them up. If somebody is in the first few days of an Ebola infection, you will not pick them up. So this lapse occurs. The unfortunate thing about Ebola is that before you become symptomatic, you are not actually infectious. And in fact, the virus load increases progressively. And if you look at the case in the United States, for example, Mr. Duncan, and 4 days, developed symptoms 4 days later, and you realize that none of the contacts he had outside of the hospitals contracted the disease.
So contacts before the symptoms develop
are unlikely to spread the case. And in fact, the recommendation now is, if you've been in contact with somebody who has Ebola, then what you'll do is called self-quarantine, where you stay at home and you take your temperature twice a day. If you develop a fever, then you become a suspect case. Now, if you don't develop any symptoms, then it's my view that you do not need to be in an isolation facility. You don't need to be put aside, and that's quite important. The thing we want to do is to avoid stigmatization. As health workers, you have to be in the front line fighting this disease. It's scary. I mean, for me, I have a small girl, 3.5 years old. But if Ebola were to come to this country, it's my responsibility at some point to try and ensure this is mitigated. If it's not mitigated, it comes back around and it's all of us. So if I took the initiative to go to Liberia, for example, and learn how to handle this process, then I'd want to be treated better. Now, it's a difficult balance, but it's important to understand, let's respond appropriately based on fact, not really too much of the fear.